Good morning. We are here at the Kootenai Brown Pioneer Village. It's the April 25th today, 2014. My name is Farley. I'm the curator here at the Kootenai Brown Pioneer Village. And we're here with Wilfred Riley, who's known as Woody.
Yeah.
And he's a Second World War veteran from Pincher Creek. He was raised in Nova Scotia, and he's come to tell us about his military experiences during the Second World War. And we're very honored and pleased to have him here today. Woody, what military unit did you serve in during the Second World War?
Well, I served in several units. I started off with the Cape Breton Highlanders, 2nd Battalion Cape Breton Highlanders in Sydney, Nova Scotia in 1942 in the Reserve Army, and then in 1943 I was on permanent staff with the Cape Breton Highlanders. I was the company headquarters driver, and I was sent up to Aldershot, Nova Scotia for driver training, and I learned to drive jeeps and trucks up to 60-100 weight, and Bren gun carriers. That's small tracked units.
So, where did you see military action overseas?
In Italy and Holland, both.
Did you go to Italy first?
Yes. Yeah, I went overseas in the Armoured Corps as a driver mechanic in the Armoured Corps, and I was transferred. In England, I was transferred to the infantry. They took my wheels away and put me on foot.
Wow.
And I trained infantry training in England, then I was shipped out to Italy and joined the regiment, the Hastings and Prince Edward Regiment in Italy in Bagnacavallo.
Right.
I went in as I was only 19 and went in as a reinforcement. I was too young to get into the initial stage of it. And then I served in Italy, and then we were, all the Canadians were taken out of Italy and sent up to Holland for the first Canadian did.
So when did you serve in the military? Do you remember the years?
Yes, I went on active service in February '43, and I served in the military until January '45, and I was discharged. Pardon me, January '46.
So that was 3 years you were with them.
3 years, yeah.
Wow. And what were the reasons that you have for enlisting in the military? Well,
all my buddies had gone in the military, so I was more or less home alone, so I just thought it was a better thing to join up and do my part.
Do your patriotic part? Well, that's great. What were some of your most memorable experiences that you remember during the war, positive or otherwise? Well,
just after we got in action in Italy, I joined the regiment in Bagnacavallo, and I would come out and rest, and then I went back in again on the Sinio River, and the sergeant took a patrol out one night, and the patrol come back and said the sergeant got shot up and they couldn't get him out.
Oh dear.
So the platoon officer and I grabbed a stretcher, and we got him out and found him. We got him back to the house, but he was too badly wounded, he bled to death. We couldn't save him. So that was the first go round, and then after that I had some snipers take a crack at me, and they missed, fortunately.
Yeah, very fortunately.
I got home without any holes in my hide.
Yeah, well, good for you for surviving and all that.
And then on the same position, we had our slit trenches were so close together, we used to have hand grenade fights, just like kids in a snowball fort. Wow. And one night the firefight started, I was in the house, and rest for doing an hour and a half on, 3 hours off, right around the clock, and so we didn't get much rest. And so I was in the house at the time the firefight started, and they'll get out, and one of the boys, the hand grenades are going, I could hear the machine guns going and everything else going, and then one hand grenade hit one guy, I heard him moan, and I was behind him with the Bren gun, and I opened up and got things settled down on top of the hill, well, on top of the dike where the Germans were, and the boys went out and found him, and he was hand grenade had killed him.
So you saw lots of tragedy and overseas.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to see your buddies getting killed.
I know, it's terrible.
See what damage is done. And then up in Holland I had running up to a field there one day, and I heard a shell come. You could hear them whistling. So I hit the ground, and I thought it was about as thick as a cigarette paper. You're trying as flat as you can. So when the shell blew, something hit me on the head. My helmet had come off, and I dove and hit the ground. And something hit me on the head, and I thought, well, the first thing that through my mind was, well, all right, his little boy got her this time. So anyway, I got up and had to jump over a fence and went in the house where we're holding up. And the stretcher bearer looked, he said, no, there's no marks on your head. He said, you went through my hair like a monkey looking for fleas. And when I jumped the fence, I noticed a rifle sling waved out in front of me, and a piece of shrapnel from the shell had cut my rifle sling in two, and it was laying right alongside my stomach. If the rifle hadn't been there, I wouldn't have been here today.
Wow. So a very close call.
Yeah, and then that was on a Friday, and then on Sunday, we were holding the Ice River, getting ready to go across there, and we were holed up in a Dutch home, and the house and the barns and Jemmy are all together over there.
Right.
And so I was going to go and garden out and had a cup of coffee in the kitchen and come back out in the house and the barn are together. And we were sleeping in the hay, so it was a good place for us to sleep.
Right.
So I went back out in the barn to pick up my rifle and that bandolier of ammunition to go up the slit trench, and a 105mm shell hit right over my head.
Wow.
So it sent me flying up against a wall and killed the sergeant. He never moved, or he was sleeping. Killed Bill Martinson. Another guy had 4 fingers cut off. And we were all shaken up pretty bad after that one. And
I can imagine. Yes.
So after that we had snipers working and stuff. So.
Yeah, so you had several close calls there in the military, yes.
Real close ones. I was very fortunate to get home without being wounded.
Right. So you also served overseas in Germany at one point, did you?
Yes, I guess I had what you call the grand tour. I trained in England, went from Canada to England, and then I was shipped to Italy. I fought in Italy, and then we were transferred up to, put us in boats in Naples. We went up to Marseille, and they put us in boxcars. That's the way they transported us up to Ghent, Belgium. And from there on I went back up to the regiment, found the regiment again, and that was after that, we got up to the regiment when these other incidents happened with the shells and stuff.
Right.
So and then I served in Holland when the war quit, just down below the Zuider Sea.
Right.
And we went to put us in trucks and took us through the German lines, and well, no, I'm getting ahead of my story here. In there, and I was a section leader at this time.
Right.
And had a group of men with me, and we went into a building, a big factory building, clean it all up for the regiment to move up, and going to make a push below the Zuider Sea out to the west coast. But then the war quit, so that night we were getting ready, in the building cleaning up. I had my section with me, there's several other fellows in there too. And all hell seemed to break loose outside, the machine guns going, people hollering, and we thought the Germans had broken through, and we were on the top floor, so I got my guys out of there and down on the bottom floor, because I felt if there was any shell or mortars coming, it would land and burst on the roof, on the first floor. So we every hollering and hooting and machine guns going outside, so we got to the door, opened the door, and all the Dutch people were out there, and they were hollering and shooting. The shooting was, the Dutch underground had the old Sten guns. They were firing them in the air, so we just, first guy went close enough by, we grabbed him, and all he could do was jump up and down and say, war is over, war is over. So we looked at one another and said, well, maybe we made it. So after that, then we went to, put us in trucks and took us through the lines and out the west coast of Holland. So we're the Royal Edmund Regiment were rounding up, and other regiments were rounding up German prisoners. And we had them in a big compound, we were guarding them, getting them ready to go back to Germany. And then I was taken out of that, and I was transferred into the North Nova Scotia Highlanders, and we went into Germany doing occupation duty.
Right.
It was there till I was transferred back to England and sent home.
Wow. That's quite the story. So did you make a lot of long-term friends in the military?
No, I didn't do that. I trained in done Durham, and I was too young to go overseas, so I had to go with the trained soldiers wing. And then I went overseas when I turned, but by the time I turned 19, I was on the train heading east for the boat. And I got to England, and I was split up with another bunch again. We went down to the Armoured Corps, and then I was in the Armoured Corps, and then they split us all up, sent us in the infantry, and then I got in the infantry down to Italy, and I got split up again with another bunch, and then I got into HTPs, and stayed with them to the end of the war. So I shuffled around so much I didn't have a chance to get long-term friends. But you didn't want to get too friendly, too long-term friends, because you didn't know how long they're going to be with you.
Yeah, that's the sad part about the war. So.
Yeah.
What were your living conditions like in the war?
God awful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
In England there we had, they didn't have enough room for us in England, so many troops in there, so we had to dig, make sods about 3 feet high in a U shape, and a couple of ground sheets on the bottom, underneath you, and a couple of gas capes on top to keep the rain off you. And everything was outside, washrooms, bathrooms, the whole thing, everything was outside.
So
as far as food is concerned, they've fed us nothing but mutton. And I think my best tins are down in the Legion. I think there's still some mutton fat in them.
Whereabouts in England were you, Woody?
Well, mostly we were trained in Salisbury Plains down in the south of England.
Right.
Wow. So the living conditions when you're actually at the battlefront were pretty god-awful as well.
Oh, well, yeah, you would just hole up wherever you could.
Yeah.
And there was no such thing as billets or anything like that. You just went wherever you lay your head down, it wasn't too wet.
Yeah. And the food would have been pretty tough.
Food was terrible.
Yeah.
Food was terrible.
Yeah. On the lines. What were the German soldiers and prisoners like after when you were in the demobilization?
Well, they were just as glad to see things folded up as we were. I met some Germans that spoke English as well as I did.
Right.
And I had to take a group of them out to the island in Island Harbour. There was a big, Germans had a big naval gun in there. And I had an old Sten gun. I had a boatload of German prisoners with me, and the sergeant told me, he said, he spoke very good English. He said, when I put these guys to work here, I'll show you around. So I went all through the gun emplacement, showed where they lived and their air conditioning system and everything. And then they had the big gun. I think it was a 16-inch naval gun mounted. They opened the breech and that, you could crawl into the hole. It would fire a shell the size of weight of a Volkswagen about 20 miles.
Wow.
Whoa.
Lots of power there.
Huge guns.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So after the war, you've been active in the Legion, haven't you? In the Royal Canadian
Yeah,
Legion?
I've been about a 35-year member now. I did all kinds of jobs, poppies and the Salvation Army cattle. We did a lot of work with the Salvation Army people with the cattle.
Right. Oh, interesting. Now, have you ever gone back overseas to Europe to visit some of the places that you served in the military? Yes,
Harold Kidd and I went back to Holland in 1995 for the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Holland.
Right.
And that was a real experience to meet all the Dutch people, and they had the parade in Apeldoorn, and I think there was around 1 million Dutch people at the parade, and there was around 8,000 Canadians in it. And we started off in calling with threes, and the Dutch people crowded in so much it was only calling with twos.
Wow.
And we shook hands with, I shook hands with everybody on that side of the street where I was. And it's just an experience, you couldn't explain it the way the feeling was there.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing experience and all that, so. When you left the military service in 1946, was there any services or compensation given to you, or?
Well, they gave us
training.
They gave us a paper so we go buy some city clothes. And then later on they had the Veterans Land Act that they call the Veterans Fairs, so they helped us out some that way.
And the Land Act that was so you could, if you wanted a farm, you could
buy,
farm.
buy a home or get a,
Mm-hmm.
if you had qualifications enough, you could get a farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did they provide training for a trade or anything like that?
No, not at that time, no.
Interesting. What sort of long-lasting impact did the war have on soldiers such as yourself, physically or mentally or anything like that?
Well, we, at that time they didn't have any of the fancy names they have for it now. They call it post-traumatic stress disorder, but I think everybody that come out of into the military always come back with some of that.
Right.
I know after I come back, and I still do, I always want my back to the wall and facing the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I always want to see who's around me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a natural outcome
Yeah.
of fighting because you want to
Yeah.
look after your own security and safety and things like that. So, do you have any other memories of the Second World War that you'd like to share with us?
Well, we had a real, when we sailed from Scotland to Naples, we were down off the Bay of Biscay and we had rough weather. And we were on a small troop ship, and it was pitching so bad forward and back that the propeller would come out of water. And then it would settle down, you just go like this, you think the ship was going to break up.
Yeah.
She rolled so bad like that,
Yeah.
that went down the hole, you walked on a ladder, it felt like you were walking on a ladder in the ground one way, and the next time you had to hang on to keep from falling off this.
Mm-hmm.
And they had big garbage cans, and they were all full of vomit.
Mm-hmm.
Running over.
Yeah.
Terrible conditions, terrible conditions.
Really rough seas.
And there was a big warship off on the side of the convoy, and at one time it looked like it was sitting on the top of a wave, and the next time you couldn't even see the masthead, the troughs were that deep.
Wow.
Oh, gee.
Really rough sea
Yeah,
conditions.
very, very rough.
Yeah. I noticed you've brought a few history books with you and all that.
Yes, I have the regimental diary there. That it's a regimental diary of the Hastings and Prince Edward Regiment, and from the time the regiment was mustered in 39 or 40, every day is written in that book from there to the day it was.
Right.
Yeah, regiment was disbanded.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one there. It's written by Farley Mode. He was the intelligence officer while I was with the regiment, and he wrote the book called The Regiment. And it's a real first-class picture of what happened during the war and all of the things that happened in it.
And that's the book that has your name.
My name is in it.
Name in there as well.
All the names of all the people that served the regiment are in the book.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you actually knew Mr. Mowat then, did you? Or,
No, I never met the man.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, but you know him, so does anybody else have any questions? Or do you have any more memories? What do you like to offer to us? Any topics or themes that we've missed?
No, the only thing that as far as cooking was going, if they were, you went over to the mess hall, the windows off the mess hall, they're cooking what? It smelled like they were boiling dirty old socks.
So I gather you don't eat mutton today.
No.
Neither would any other Second World War vet either.
I wouldn't blame you, so. Yeah. Yeah. Sort of went forever.
Would you have any thing to offer up to troops of nowadays serving?
No. It's a different war altogether.
Yeah.
It's a different war altogether. When we were there, there was no civilians around. It was just you and the enemy. That was all. There was no reporters or anything there. We were on our own. Now these, and everybody was in uniform. You know who you're looking for.
Yeah.
But now these boys that are over there now, these people are fighting against wear those nightgowns or night shirts or whatever it is on them. You know, whether they got a machine gun on them or a bomb belt or what's underneath them. So it's pretty hard. They've got a real tough time. Really tough time.
Yeah, they do. So. Yeah. Well, we'd like to thank you, Woody, for your wonderful memories of the war and your frank memories, and we really appreciate you coming in to the museum this morning to talk to us about some of the military history, and we also thank you for your contributions during the war, because that made sure countries like Canada were we're safe for the future and all that. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, and it was a pleasure.
Yeah.